episode 4 of Shining the Light On. How are you, Therese?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good. I'm really excited for our chat today. I feel like it's going to be deep and very emotional.
Here we are.
And I've got noise in the background because I was just making sure that it's working. All the perks of doing stuff live. So today's conversation, emotional manipulation.
Yeah, so let's talk about how there's so many ways we could have gotten into this conversation,
Yes.
but specifically what sparked it between Amber and I was the release of a new Dove ad aimed at really young girls and women. And why I brought it up to Amber was because I had an immediate emotional response to it. I got like tears welled up, and I felt like the message was actually resonant. It actually was something that like spoke to me, and I'm like, this is right.
Yeah.
And it was basically, we're going to show it to you in a minute, but the gist of it is it was showing the effects of being continuously online and the effects it has on young girls specifically, and their experience with their bodies, and how it's just kind of like the age-old experience of how the media affects a woman's vision of themselves.
Yeah.
And how it, what the damaging effects of that could be. And it kind of shows you one specific person, and it's a real person that they're going to show you in this video, in the ad. And what you're watching her grow up, and then you're watching her get online, and you're watching her change, and you're watching the result of what she went through. And it is a very moving and emotional ad. And I was showing it, I shared it with Amber, and I'm like, this is a hard one, because on one hand, I feel that Dove is making an accurate statement that I can definitely get behind.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, it's Dove.
Yes,
So,
exactly. And we'll get into all of that, right? So,
yeah.
I'm going to dive into sharing our screen here so that we can go right into this ad, because it's definitely very, very emotional. So I'm going to, one sec here. I know when I saw this, and I think another thing is that it's just so relatable, because so many of us have been through these similar circumstances with self-sabotage with food and eating disorders and all of these things. And it just, you can relate in some way.
Absolutely.
Even if it wasn't the social media infiltration, it's the experience. So let's watch.
Absolutely. And it looks good live. I can see it. So
Good. Can you hear it?
So
yes.
beautiful to be. You are so beautiful. You're everything I need. You are so beautiful to be.
And by the way, we're using this clip from the comment section. So in case you're like, who's that?
Get yourself a tape measure, thigh gaps are in. So beautiful. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You are so beautiful. Can't you see?
And there it is, right? It makes me want, I'm tearing up
Every
because
time.
it's just so, number one, so relatable. And number two, it is so sad to see that evolution and see such a bright young soul in that little girl and see it get completely like ripped out of her as she got, programmed by the social media and all of these things.
Yeah, this is probably the third time I've seen it, and I still can't stop from tearing up because
Same.
it's and it definitely speaks to each one of us who dealt with emotional eating and any other eating disorders.
Yeah.
It definitely hits you right in the heart because it's like you're watching something that you've experienced.
Yes.
And so on one hand, the reaction I had was to feel respect for the brand showing this, because it's like, this is what, this is exactly how I feel about it. I have a daughter who's 12, and I
Right.
don't let her go on social media, which some people think is like too harsh and like you're keeping things from your child. And I see no value in putting that in front of her. And I
Right.
don't think that it's something most adults struggle with, social media. And I don't think that children are emotionally equipped to deal with it. So I don't, but I look at that and I feel so much relief that somebody with a big brand is speaking about this and talking about the correlation and showing it to people so that they can see that parents like me who have concerns about it, we're coming from a pretty legitimate place. There is a consequence to being online, but our topic today isn't quite about that part, although that part is very relevant and has a conversation for sure. This topic that we're talking about is the manipulation behind what a marketing campaign can do and the effect it has on the viewer, and how it is used to sort of get us to feel like they're in a line with us. They care about me. They care about what I care about. And so therefore this brand must be great. And I can tell you really quick, Amber, back in, like I was saying, it started like in 2000, maybe 6 or 7. It was right around then that Dove did introduce their first body positivity campaign, and they were the first big brand to talk about it. And I remember feeling so happy that that was happening, and it felt like such a ray of like of light and hope. And this is before body positivity sort of went off the rails. It was really just about like, love the skin you're in. That was their tagline, right? It's like, appreciate your body. And I could totally get behind that. That felt like a very healthy message. And I remember that back in those days, I totally fell for it. I was like, awesome, I'm going to use Dove. Next time I go and buy body soap, that's the soap I'm getting. Wasn't like a super strong conviction. It was just like, locked it in. Got it. I feel that these guys are on my side.
Yeah. You've got my vote. Right. And that's so what we want to look at, because, and we want to respect the delicate nature of what these women were struggling with in this video, because we've both been through our own self-sabotage with food and body shame and dysmorphia. And at the same time, like, one of the patterns that we're constantly seeing with these big brands is really getting you into the pattern of this deep emotional involvement with them, right? It's like, we're going to promote something very vulnerable and very, in some cases, dangerous for some of the women that are, and life-threatening and massive, costs to your health when you're going through these things. And we're going to make it seem like we're so in support of helping these women, like by pointing out the dangers of social media and having access to it at too young of an age. But then but when we take a deeper step back, and this is what the first thing that I thought of when you sent me the ad is like, I want to think about the ingredients that are in these products, because they're not great. There are a lot of chemicals and toxins. And so it's just like food shopping. If I see a brand on TV, like there's been some Quaker Oats ads lately on one of the YouTube channels we watch, and the music is so moving. And it's like the mom waking up and getting the kids up and like fire your day with Quaker oats or whatever. And it's like the emotional involvement of that. You're like, oh, I want the warmth. It's so cozy. Let's have Quaker oats. But it's the emotional involvement. And you're just eating a big bowl of refined sugar and aspartame if you're getting the flavored ones because they're just full of garbage.
Right. And the flavor ones are like the only ones worth eating.
Right. And so it's like, but they're like promoting this like connection and all of this, but then you look at the actual ingredients in the product and there's no nutritional value. And so that's the first thing that came to mind with me for this is like, I have so much love and compassion for all the women who are struggling. It actually makes me really angry because it could be completely prevented. However, the ingredients, that's what came up for me. I'm like, you get emotionally involved. You're not looking at the ingredient label. You're not spending time in the grocery store going, oh, but before I buy this, I'm going to go online and I'm going to search the ingredients in this and what they are and what they mean and how they might be impacting me. You're not thinking that. You're thinking, ooh, that commercial, Dove. Yeah, I'm going to support them because look at how they're supporting women with these issues. Right.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in my own experience, before I really started being more proactive in what I put in my body, I was very much driven by the marketing. I mean, I can see it as I look back. I'm like, why did I make those choices? I made those choices because of like these campaigns that make you feel something strong. And then you're like, their values are my values.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm influenced, right? There's somebody out there who I also align to in some way. And so they're using it. So of course I want to use it, right? Yeah. This is how all the choices I was making back then were very much emotionally based and not based on what are the effects this is going to have on me. And I remember for me, it was like in my mid 30s when I started noticing like differences, like my hair was falling out in places where I was like, I'm mid 30s. This shouldn't be happening in my head. But I actually now look back and I'm like, I'm kind of thankful it happened because it got me to do a little research and go like, what the heck is happening? Like this shouldn't happen at this age. And I appear healthy. So, you know, what's going on? It got me to look at hormones, which I was never paying attention to prior to that. And then I kind of fell down the rabbit hole of like ingredients on your hormones and what it does to your body. And fragrance was such a huge, like that one was a mind blower. You know, I you know, before all these big changes, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I worked at the beauty counters at like high-end department stores. I was right next to the fragrance department. I was the girl who was like,
yeah, me too.
New thing. Let's try it out. And I am like shocked that I'm as healthy as I am with all the exposure to these chemicals. But what I do now, or the thinking that happens now. So even though this commercial hit me in the heartstrings every time I watched it, and I am happy that Dove put it out there. Yes. I'm not gonna. I do praise them for doing that, even though I don't agree with the brand and I won't be supporting it. I do support that message they put out. But one of the first things I do, and we're going to talk more about discernment, because that's what you have to develop to get around all of this. Because like I said, even now, if I didn't have that discernment, they'd have me hook, line, and sinker again, for sure. One of the things that I just kind of know now when it comes to pretty much food and products that you use like in your house or on your body is if it's mainstream, if it's easily available, like even little convenience stores, like if you walk into a 7-Eleven and you can get a bottle of Dove body soap, there's something up with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That usually when they have that wide distribution, the quality of the ingredients that goes into it is not a component of what they're making, because they're making it on such a large scale.
Yeah. Mass
and
production.
that costs them money. And if they want to make money, then they have to figure out ways to cut their costs.
Yeah.
And ingredients would be like the first thing that they're going to do.
Yeah. And putting all kinds of fillers and chemicals and preservatives and toxins in. And this is the thing, is if it wasn't having such a big impact on female health, you would not see the level of breast cancers and estrogen dominating cancers, skin issues, respiratory, because, and we'll talk about that, but even just the breast cancer and you know what a lot of women don't realize, our lymph nodes go into our breasts, and that, right, like you're putting this deodorant on or this lotion, or maybe you're rubbing it right onto your breasts, and you're absorbing within 25, 30 seconds into your system. And if, you know, just use the example, you wake up, you take a shower, you use their soap, and maybe you use a body wash, then you put on their deodorant, a lotion, you have a lotion in your bag that you take with you. Even just that, you've now exposed yourself to like 4 or 5 products, and we're going to show you some of the ingredients and the risk here to those ingredients right away, but you've already doused yourself. And if you're doing that every day, your body is absorbing all of these toxins and chemicals. And then all of a sudden, you know, if you end up with, you know, breast issues or some kind of health issues, or you end up with really high estrogen, one of the reasons for that is because all of these fragrances and toxic ingredients, they build up in the body and build up toxic estrogens in the cells called xenoestrogens. And this fuels inflammation, this fuels weight gain, this fuels fertility issues, right? Increases your chance for estrogen dominating cancers and all kinds of things. And to me, the toxic nature of the beauty industry is one of the biggest contributors to that, because let's face it, they know what they're putting in their products and they're still doing it and they're still marketing it. But one of the ways that they get you to keep buying and avoiding the chemical nature is by getting you emotionally involved with the marketing message. It opens up your heart, it hurts your heart, and then you're like, wow, like I want to vote with my dollars and support them because of this. But then of course they're not showing, hey, but like these 3 ingredients could increase your risk for all of these things. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we were talking about one of the reasons why we wouldn't fall into this trap now, other than our own awareness of the products, is just one of the ways that we've developed discernment is you want to look at if the company or any person even is using integrity, you know, in how they're approaching things. Does their talk match the walk? Right. And with the case of a company such as Dove, their talk is that we care about you. We care about you so very much. You should love yourselves. We love you. Here's an example. Here's some proof of how much we love you. We, you know, and we're going to do this legislation to try and protect you. And that's a great talk. But then if you look at their walk, the walk isn't about cleaning up their product. Even like, for example, you know, we're living in a time where we have so many now clean beauty products and beauty alternatives available to us. And it's so great because it was hard in the beginning. Like you were at the, you'd be at the, you know, not Whole Foods, but even like, I'm trying to think of the words, like alternative market, you know, where it's like, you're getting like the small batch potions of things that are handmade and stuff. And I like actually really enjoy that. But it was harder to find. And sometimes it wasn't stuff that, I mean, I don't want to smell like patchouli all the time, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we're in this time period where there's so much available and people are flocking toward it, which is great because you keep seeing the clean beauty industry growing. And if you look to like Europe has such different standards for what is allowed in products that go into your body or on your body. And they've got so many restrictions on ingredients there. So you'd think a big company like Dove would see, they've only altered, as far as I know, I could be wrong. I'm sure they have more products. I'm just not aware of their full range. But the only thing I've seen them advertise that they've altered is like their deodorants no longer have aluminum in them. But that's kind of too little, too late, in my opinion.
Totally.
If they really cared as much as they are talking about how much they care, why aren't they reflecting that in how they formulate products? And why are they not informing people of what's in these products? I mean, even if a company were to, let's say a Dove company, I'm just imagining, were to suddenly turn around and be like, hey, we realize the standards of beauty have changed. We admit that in the past we were making it with these things because we didn't know the long-term effects, or they were much more commercially available or whatever, you know what I mean? But now we see that this is actually not in your best interest. And now we're going to limit or reduce or remove or replace these ingredients. That would actually show an integrity move, that they're actually moving in that direction. But I want, Amber's going to show us what direction they actually do move in.
Yes. And it's not that one. So I have a really cool website that I love that I'm going to show you here right away. EWD or EWG.org. And this is a great website that you can go and check out. And of course, I'm going to share the screen again, but if you are curious about any of your skincare, body care, shampoos, conditioners, deodorants, your Downy, your dryer sheets, like any of this stuff, you can go to this website and you can type in the brand and it will pull up every product they have. And there's a rating here. So of course, one is, least
Healthy.
Yeah, it's healthy. And then 10 is obviously the worst. And so they have 915 products, Dove, which holy guacamole, I didn't realize there's that many.
Neither did I.
Yeah, but we can see that okay, there's a lot that are rated with red here. And I'm just going to click on just the first one that comes up. And then what we see is different ratings of things here, right? Of okay, cancer is low, allergies and immunotoxicity though is high. And I was telling you this story before we came on that we don't use any toxins in our house. And yes, it takes time to fully change things over. So don't feel like you have to throw everything out and make all the change. It's been years of evolution in this household, but when you get used to not having anything in the house and someone comes to visit, like my dad, who bless his heart, and he brought Dove soap. And he just brought a bar of soap and kept it in the bathroom. And he was here for 2 nights. And the whole upstairs of the house smelled like Dove fragrance. And so I had to close all the doors, and then he left. And the bathroom smelled like Dove soap for a week. And that's with the door closed and the fan on. And I had to keep the door closed because it was literally coming into the entire upstairs of our house. And my nose was burning. So with the allergies and immunotoxicity, I don't have allergies or any respiratory issues. And it was already burning my tissues in my nose.
Wow.
Just from that, right?
See.
So that's high. Developmental and reproductive toxicity, right, is moderate. Again, how many reproductive issues they're continuing to rise, and part of it could be this toxicity, right? Feeling hormone imbalances, etc. And use restrictions. We thought this was really interesting. So I want to look at what use restrictions are. Okay. So to go back to this other page on their website, use restrictions, ingredients restricted or prohibited for use in cosmetics, according to industry safety guidelines, government requirements, or guidance from the US, EU, Japan, or Canada. So what does that mean? They are putting stuff in there that they're not supposed to be. And it's what the FDA isn't doing anything about it either, obviously. It doesn't seem like, right?
No, I mean, which is wild. We were just talking about how in Europe, they have these really strict standards for beauty. I don't know if Dove is even sold in Europe. In fact, if anybody watching this
I'd be curious.
is from Europe, let us know. Do they sell Dove products in Europe, or are they modified? And if they're willing to modify them for Europe, why can't that just be how they are across the board? Why have the toxic version?
Yeah. It's pretty alarming when you start looking at some of these products and you start going, whoa, and again, right, even just this conditioner here, right? You think, oh, I'm not putting it on my body for very long, but what we're not educated on is that you absorb within about 25 seconds. And
Jeez,
when
look, I'm sorry, this one has moderate cancer. Moderate it's a conditioner that could possibly cause cancer.
And when you're in the shower, right, the water, your pores are more open. So you're absorbing this stuff even more easily. And then of course you get out of the shower. Most of us will dry ourselves off with a towel and we'll put our deodorant on right away when our pores are even more open. And so we've just used this conditioner, the shampoo, right? Even just one product, it makes a big difference. And I will tell you, right, when I was having some breast issues, the first thing the person that I was seeing said is get off everything toxic, because it causes so much higher risk of those high estrogens and then having health issues. Because the first thing she said, anything toxic in your house, try to get rid of it. Right. And it made a huge difference. My brain fog was gone. I was less inflamed. I was having a lot of breast tenderness. And that was this accumulation of these toxic products building up in my breasts, building up in my lymphatic system. Right. my intuition got stronger, of course, because we're more clouded with these products, right? So it just is a couple of examples of, right? But the allergy and immunotoxicity is really big with this one, and the use restriction right across the board. So you can go, like I said, ewg.org, and like any brand, pop it in there and see what comes up. But to me, that is really the proof right there of like, this is what we're not seeing in that ad.
Right.
Because we're too emotionally involved with the ad and how moving and vulnerable and relatable it is, which of course, like, I'm so glad, like you said, that they're putting that out there. However, like, this is what's behind the scenes that we're being distracted from in a way, right?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, more and more these days, it's really going for like companies, like big companies, as we're seeing, are really kind of going for the jugular and trying to make themselves like a socially aware brand, or like they're really even leaning into the politics of life and like trying to really get people to support them. And sometimes it makes people reject them too. But so they're polarizing even more than they used to be. They used to just be like, you know, brands for the sake of brands. And they were like, you know, you want big, you know, bouncy, beautiful curls, use this shampoo or whatever. And now it's like, you know, if you care about these issues, use this shampoo.
Exactly.
So they know that they're being triggering. They know that. And there's, you know, we can even go into the background of marketing and how marketing departments understand how to emotionally manipulate people. It's how they build marketing.
Yeah.
And if anybody out there who's an entrepreneur, you've probably done a class or two or studied material that tells you that in order to reach people, you need to reach them through emotions. You can't just say, hey, I have a product, do you want to buy it? You have to actually emotionally connect with them if you want to be successful in your marketing. So they know it works, and they know that they can actually trigger. There's a book, and it's called Irrationally Predictable. And I can't remember who wrote it, but it's a marketing book. And they've done psychology studies on this, and they know that they can create irrationality in you just through emotional manipulation, that they can get you to behave in a way that's almost like counter to your intelligence based on if they can trigger certain emotional responses in you, which is why, like, when I first mentioned this ad to Amber, I was like, I really don't know like how I feel about this. Is this helpful and good, or is it manipulation? And her response was, it's a little bit of both. And I mean, of course, Amber, the work that she does, she goes really deep into this material, and she's done the research on what is in the product. So she's very aware that no matter what they're going to tell you, at the end of the day, you're buying toxicity, really. You're not buying something that's serving you. It's actually working against you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's we mean the utmost compassion for the video and what these women are going through, but we need to start lifting the curtain more and seeing what's behind, right? Rather than just, you know, and it's same with the food products that just say natural and have the green check mark. No, that's not good enough. Flip the package over, look at the ingredients, pull your phone up, Google a couple of them, see what it really is. It's not good enough anymore.
It might be bugs.
It might be, they used to, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they essentially would put the equivalent of windshield washer fluid in the blueberries and the muffins at like McDonald's and fast food places and antifreeze kind of ingredients. Yeah. Right. But you don't know this unless you go and actually look at the website, pull up the ingredients and put them in the search and start reading what they really are. Right. So the same thing with our skincare. People are more apt to look at ingredients in food. What you're putting on your body is just as, if not more important, because these are things that, like, man, they're just so bad for us.
Well, the transdermal layer, I mean, you're covered in skin, and it's like millions and billions of mouths all over your body. Someone explained it to me that way once. And I was like, when you think about it like that, it's your skin is taking in so much.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, and then we wonder why everybody's got thyroid issues, and we wonder why autoimmune is such a thing now. Like, it wasn't a thing.
No. And PMS issues and menopause and
yeah. And I mean, this one's kind of off topic, so I won't go into it too long, but I remember learning about shampoo brands that were actually causing people's hair to fall out. It was causing people's hair to fall out to get them to sell them more solutions.
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah.
cycle as we see with like big pharma and how
Totally.
they create problems to create the solution for you. And it's the same thing here.
Yeah.
Um,
And once you see the pattern and once you really get it, it's so easy to spot. It's so
Yes.
easy to see it once you get it, right?
totally.
Yeah.
So we should talk more about discernment, because that's
Yes.
your greatest tool to help you navigate moving forward. Because as much as we want, I would like it to be very convenient, to be honest.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to like learn a bunch of weird ingredients and what they really are so I can go grocery shopping. It's
No.
great that we should put the website link to that site you have
Yeah.
in the chat so that people can
I'll add
use
it
that
in.
or quickly access it. We'll put it in the description too,
Yeah.
so that you guys can access it anytime you want to make it more convenient. But I mean, I would love it if we lived in a world where we didn't have to go that far. But until we see some changes, or until you find brands that you feel secure about, it is a good extra step that we're going to have to take. So
Yeah.
as unfair as it is that they've created a world where in order for you to live a healthier life, you have to be more diligent. That's just the way it is. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. So
Yeah. And your health is
discern.
worth it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, when you start to feel better and you realize it was because, like, I used to use super heavy industrial cleaners in my house. You know what I mean? Like, I was like anything that was really stinky and smelly that would give me like a weird head rush. I'm like, this is going to clean everything. And even and even when I switched over to more natural brands, there was a brand that I really loved, and it was like smelled like oranges. But I found out it was the base fragrance in it was limonene. Can you tell people about
Right.
limonene
Oh my
or limon?
goodness.
Limon. That's what it is.
I'm just gonna pull it up because I want to make sure to give the proper term.
It's-
Isn't it limonene?
There's a couple
Limonene.
variations. Limonene and limon are two of the same.
Okay. Yeah, so it's an essential oil found in citrus and fruit peels. And
So
it's
it seems
also a
like
colorless liquid. So it seems like it's an essential oil almost. But then it's also a colorless liquid aliphatic hydrocarbon, which once we get into that kind of chatter, I'm always kind of like, okay, that's a bit of a red flag when I can barely pronounce.
Well, if you could like look up the effects of limonene on the body,
Yeah.
I mean, what I remember about it is that it has an impact on your hormones. It can really mess with you hormonally, and just even breathing it in, not even putting it on your skin, can actually have a negative impact on your hormones. And there was this cleaner that I bought at like Whole Foods, and it smelled heavenly. It smelled like orange peels, and I was mixing it with water, using it on everything. And then after learning that and knowing that it's having an impact, I had to quit using that. And that was, I mean, even when we're being diligent, we still have to like double check and make sure.
Yeah, we really do. So it's an endocrine disruptor.
That's
right. So what happens is it is absorbed into our skin, and then it creates more toxicity in our cells, and all these unhealthy estrogens and testosterones and these, estrogen, androgen hormones build up. So it's no surprise that when, we're adding all this in, you almost feel this cloud or this fog. And then when you start to like clear it out, that's when you start to actually get, wow, like I didn't realize how poorly I felt, or I didn't realize what an impact this was having until I make the change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that one was hard because in a lot of brands that I would consider safer, they use limon and limonene. Like, for example, Lush Beauty, their products, they're putting it in their products, and those are going directly on your skin.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks that, here you keep thinking you're doing better, but you still have to have a diligence, and you have to like, pretty much review products until you find that one where you're like, I trust this, or this is the sweet spot for me, and kind of like, stay in that family. But discernment is so important. So getting back to that, That's your greatest tool, is discernment. And one of the things you can look at is this company, walking their talk? Are they presenting the same across the board? So not only is the messaging good, but is the product actually standing up to the message?
The integrity.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, other ways that you can be discerning, like I said, is if it's a mainstream product, if it's got a lot of marketing behind it, if it's advertised, that costs a lot of money. Advertising costs money. Mass production costs a lot of money. They have to make that money back somehow. And either, they get a lot of people to buy it, it's a pretty big market. I mean, skincare is a huge market. Beauty is a huge market. So in order to recover some of that money, it has to come from somewhere. And that it's not coming from the discount on the products. It's literally coming from the discount on the ingredients, which means they're lesser quality too.
Yeah. And when we're so used to having products that all emulsify properly, and there's, right, like when you start to make changes from, now it's better because they figured out other natural ingredients. But when you first start changing your, everyday toxic chemical skincare, body care to natural, right? The textures are a bit different. The scents aren't as potent because they're not using fragrance and fake stuff. And so that's one of the reasons why, right? Like they've made this toxic skincare so desirable and so smooth, and right, all of these, it's like, ooh, it feels so good, and the moisture sticks for like a whole day, and whatever it is, that like it just seems so appealing. But what we don't realize is it's not supposed to be so plastic, like in the sense of, and that perfection. Like nature isn't shiny like that. Nature is incredible, but it's not going to be, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's just, it's a
totally
completely different experience. It's like when you go and buy the Honey Nut Cheerios, and then you go and buy the locally made Cheerios, they have a completely different taste and texture, right? But
less sugary usually.
And then you don't have the huge sugar buzz after, though, eating the better ones, but it just takes a bit of an adjustment. And then you try the other ones again, you're like, oh, I'm bloated, I have gas, and like I have head rush, and I want to eat half the box. Like,
part of emotional manipulation is manipulating your memory. And what does that even better than anything else is fragrance, is smell.
Yeah, totally.
And so thinking about this, that they have these highly fragranced products, and the fragrance is weirdly is one of the major endocrine disruptors, is one of the things I found out. This is coming from a person who loves fragrance. So that was a hard blow to take, because, I like it when things smell good. That's very satisfying to me. And it gets you emotionally as well, right? Yeah. Or they know, like, for example, a brand like Downy or something, they will keep the scent consistent. There will always be original Downy. Why? Because it was the stuff your mom used. And so when you use it, you get this feeling of your childhood and nostalgia. And it's hard to let that go. It is. And they know they've got this emotional pull on you. And of course, these things are also designed, fragrances are designed to create an emotional or a nostalgic reaction. If they're doing a good job, it will create that for you, right? So that can be one of the harder parts in letting it go. I know when I first started changing over from, these mainstream products into more natural or products that are actually good for my body, I did have to go really slow, because I had this whole conceived idea that, for me, when I was younger, I was like, I don't want to be a hippie. I don't want to smell like, like grass or earth or something like that. I wanted to smell feminine and soft and all the stuff I was used to smelling. But like I said, things have advanced so much since all the trend. I mean, even just when did the clean beauty trend really start? Like really take off? It was only like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
I mean, so much has changed, but now we of course have to look at, what are they using? Because like I said, there are things that come up there that are natural. They're still not good for us.
Yeah. It's minimal, that too much of the other stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, should we pull a couple cards on this? I feel like this is just
totally
a deep topic. And if there's any other brands where you guys know, for those watching live or the replay, like leave in the comments, like what brands do you notice do this sneaky marketing to get you in, right? To have you buy a product, but then you don't feel good after you eat it or you put it on your body. So the first question, when will more of the collective be able to discern this kind of emotional manipulation more?
Let's see. Okay, let's ask the team.
It's always so nice to get the universe's input.
Definitely is. All right, this one.
And of course, for those watching live in the replay, if you have topic ideas, please leave them in the comments. We totally want to check in on the topics that you're interested to learn more about.
So what it's showing me, so I get the Emperor coming up, and one of the themes of the Emperor is maturity. So what we're going to see is I actually get that those who have, you know, what they're saying is those who are adults tend to be more aware of this. It's really the generation coming up right now. And here's the good news is they're online, they're watching this stuff, they're probably figuring it out. They are the generation that's been introduced to clean beauty or clean alternatives, and they seem to be more aware of that. And as they mature more and more, so as they're getting older, they're really going to shift the market on this. I think their tolerance for it will be lower. So the nostalgia won't have quite the impact, especially if they have parents like me. Like if my kids are not going to have the same reaction to it, they're not going to have this. Like I remember switching over to natural cleaners or making my own cleaning products and stuff, and feeling like maybe this isn't going to do the job. Like I'm worried that I'm now not going to have the same kind of like cleaning power I had before. I don't feel that way anymore. I definitely know that it works. But they won't have that stigma as they move forward and make choices because they grew up with it, right? So part of it is those of us who are the parental generation right now and are making these choices, we're making it easier for those coming up behind us to make better choices anyway. So just you doing it has such an impact, not only on your personal health, which is the first impact, and it's going to be great for you, but it's going to have an impact on those around you. You're going to have a natural influence without having to force it or explain it. It's you're already changing it. And what I get is we're in this process right now. We're in a maturing process. This isn't this awareness of toxicity is actually growing and people are already getting wise to it. Like I said, what we're having, I think, a struggle with is when it really lines up with our values and having us, you know, emotionally manipulated through values or through current trends and trying to be on a side and things like that. Those are the caveats, but really and truly, I think people are already like turning away from it. So another meaning of this card is manifestation, like it materializes now. So we're very close to actually seeing a shift, and maybe little conversations like this, they ripple out and people have these conversations, and maybe, hey, maybe if Dove sees this, they'll start to think about, I mean, that could be a great thing to try and manifest is, you know, what if you just did better, like just do better, like change your products. People would respond to it if you actually took the time to do it. Now we know that there might be other reasons why it's done. And so the likelihood of that, but you could, you know, one of the things that does get these brands every single time is when you hit them in the money purse, right? Every time when they realize that's why they started taking the aluminum out of the deodorant, because people stopped buying it. They don't want it. And when the consumer speaks and says, I'm not going to buy this heavy metal laden product and put it right on my very sensitive glands that are right next to my breast, I want something that I know is safe. And then we buy that, then they respond because they don't want to lose money. So ultimately, we as consumers do have way more power than they ever want you to know, because they don't want to go out of business, but they're not going to willingly change, and they're not going to do this through because I care about you. It's going to be because they feel the hit And it's either they adjust or they get out of the game.
Totally. Yes. Love it. What a great response. That totally makes sense. Next question. How do we navigate this emotional manipulation in the meantime?
Okay. Oh, they really want me to shuffle it good on this one.
You're gonna need to work up for it this time.
Work for it, Therese.
Yeah, and coming from, both of us, we used to totally give into all the emotional manipulation. I would see certain products on, in commercials, then be like, I want to buy this because I want to fit in. I want to be part of this movement. I want to use this because I idolize this celebrity or this person who's promoting it, right? Like there's many ways that they emotionally manipulate. It's the emotionally moving, but then it's using certain people that quote unquote have a certain amount of clout or impact as well. And that's another way they get people into buy, because when you felt the way that I did, feeling really insecure in who I was, one of the things I thought would make me feel more confident and secure was buying these products and using them or wearing them or whatever, eating them, consuming them, because this person's promoting it and I want to be more like them, right? Rather than having the discernment and going, it doesn't matter. So, yeah.
Yeah. So their suggestion comes up in 2 cards, and it's kind of a funny one, but they're like, let your concern with it actually guide you forward. Be concerned, be a little bit wary. This is the worry card. And it represents sort of a wariness on the physical plane. And it's kind of like, you got to know that there are other agendas. It's the stuff that no one wants to think about or talk about or believe in. And that's that there's maybe a control agenda behind poisoning people with products. And usually what you'd have to do is follow the money and see who are they holding hands with, right? When you find out that, people on fast food boards are also on the boards of big pharma, then you see that how they're holding hands and you're like, oh, so that's how it works. So, part of it is understanding that there is something going on behind it and you should be concerned about it. And the other thing they said is you just have to be, and this is the more important card, is that you need to take an unconventional approach to life. So another way to say that is a non-mainstream approach to life. So one of the ways that we can really work with discernment is kind of doing what I had shown you, which is, do I see this everywhere? If I see it everywhere, I'm instantly like, it's too available. It's too easy. It's like, why is this product, I could go to any store and find it. I could go to the grocery store. I could go to a drugstore. I could go to the convenience store and I'm still finding this product. There's something to that. Why is it everywhere? Right. Usually with clean beauty products right now, you can get them at select stores, or you have to buy it from the site directly itself. It's never like you walk into 7-Eleven and you can get, your alternative health brands. You can't do that. So they're letting us know with this card that most importantly is to be unconventional. Mm-hmm. So if it's something you find everywhere, like Doritos is another great example. You find that that shit's everywhere.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we need to do one on Doritos.
Totally. We're going to bum some people out with that. But the point being is like the more easily accessible and readily available, they're almost like trying to get you, one, normalize it for you so you get comfortable with it and it just becomes your go-to brand. But also, it makes you feel like there's almost no alternatives because this brand's dominating and everywhere. And that's something that you should also use at your discernment and make it a red flag. Why is this so easily available and ready to get?
Totally. I can agree with you more. And the other thing I'll add to that is, if it can be shelf stable for years and years and years and years and years and be the exact same, like I have my face cream and I forgot I had an extra one in the back of the cupboard, and I think it's been back there for like over a year and it's gotten a lot thicker and it's not right because there's no garbage in it. And that's a good thing. Right. Just like food, it shouldn't have a longer shelf life than we, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the weird things about like, if it actually goes bad or turns on you or goes rancid, that's actually a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is it's a good thing. So, this is just such a valuable conversation. And I think we've shared some great points today. So we're so curious to hear from you. Please share in the chat a takeaway, what you've learned, what your thoughts are. And just to plug a really great brand that I use at home all the time for skincare, body care, hair care, Rocky Mountain Soap Company. They actually make all the product an hour west of me. I know the owner. I've been to there where they make everything, and everything is 100% natural, right? Human tested, because of course there's nothing bad in it. And I use everything from their deodorant, their lip balms, their lotion. Like, it's a great brand. So if you're looking to start making a few little changes and you want to support an integral company, that would be one that I would suggest for sure. And it's RockyMountainSoapCompany.com. So
That's awesome.
easy peasy. Well, it's been a pleasure. I love doing this with you.
Yeah, I do too. I can't wait for our next one.
Me
If
too.
anybody has like suggestions or comments of things they want to hear about, drop it in the comments below. We'll take a look. And if it's something that feels like it's in alignment, we'll definitely dig in on it for you.
Yes. And if you want support dealing with looking at hormone imbalances, skin issues, the gut issues, overwhelm, trying to navigate through cleaning up your products, please don't hesitate to click the link in the comments to book a 30-minute body freedom call, or go to amberapproved.ca and check more out. I'm happy to help you with these things, because these are things I help my clients with every day. And obviously, where can everyone find you, Therese?
Yeah, you can go to BlytheStarlight.com. You can book a reading. I can even help you increase your own intuition and discernment so that you move forward with a more confident sense that whatever you're approaching, it's coming from a place of sovereignty and you're not being emotionally manipulated by it.
Yes, so important. Well, that's a wrap on this episode. We hope you all have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.